Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Design First Path to BIM. My name is Don. With me, my colleagues, Robert Green and Julie Kavarian. Both of them will join us here on stage in today's session. And our Director of Partner Development, Ana Maria Romeo, is standing by to answer your questions. In our discussions today, we'll work to show you just how BricsCAD BIM supports your practice and your art. I'll kick it off with an overview, then I'll pass it to Julie and she'll show you the software. Robert will take us home then with a summary of BricsCAD BIM's compatibility and value proposition. The BricsCAD Building Information Modeling Workflow. At Bricsys, we offer a building information modeling workflow that supports open industry standards. BricsCAD BIM covers the architect's slice of the design and construction workflow, from schematic design capture through construction documentation. What are the key elements in our BIM value proposition? Well, first, we enable BIM-ready modeling from the concept stage with no design effort lost ever. Our intuitive direct modeling engine keeps your building model light and responsive. Built in, you'll find a powerful automated 3D parametric constraint management workflow. And we use advanced AI tools to automate design and drafting workflows. Most of all, the BricsCAD product family is one product, one platform for 2D, 3D, BIM, and mechanical. But wait, there's more. You knew there was more. Our workflow is based on industry standard DWG for interoperability and lower training costs. We're based on open BIM standards and IFC certified by Building Smart International. You can create associative construction drawings with the most complete 2D drafting tool set, and maybe best of all, fair pricing and the most flexible licensing model in the industry today. I'd like to just take a second to take a quick look at the architect's workflow for building design. First, conceptual design and visualization, through the process of classification and detailing, the enhancement of level of development of the model, and then to the creation of construction documentation with a focus throughout the entire workflow on data sharing and collaboration. Let's look at each of these elements separately. First, you can experience design freedom in BricsCAD BIM with a full 3D workflow. Now, we're not limited by predefined parts, families, or library components. You'll use intuitive push-pull direct modeling to sculpt your concept model. And that model will always remain light and responsive because our smart tools ensure that it's never overloaded or overconstrained. We integrate directly with Robert McNeil and Associates, Rhinoceros NURBS Modeler, and the industry standard Grasshopper generative design visual programming language to let you extend shape creation to new levels, directly, bidirectionally associated with BricsCAD BIM. Now, visualization is key to a design workflow. You can visualize your design at every phase of that workflow. With a single click, you can enjoy real-time rendering using Enscape for BricsCAD BIM. With the Enscape for BricsCAD BIM product, you'll be able to walk through your fully rendered model at any pace or speed that you wish. Now, once your presentations are complete and your designs are improved, we'll then leverage the power of our artificial intelligence tools to automatically convert your concept study model to a fully classified BIM at LOD 200. Now, think about this. The ability to work freely without concern about classification allows you to capture the best and most accurate representation of your design in full CAD accuracy, and then the ability to classify it automatically using our AI tools. In the next steps, then, increase the level of development of that BIM continuously using the power of our AI-powered Propagate and AutoMatch workflows. Now with BricsCAD BIM, you can add building data once and duplicate it across the model automatically with Propagate. Again, we can't stress how important floating point CAD accuracy is. Between the accuracy and the consistent level of detail, you can extract, display, and export accurate quantity takeoffs and bills of materials. Some of the greatest power in the BricsCAD product family is the ability to create documentation. We help you create clear and accurate construction documentation in record time with automatic generation of sections, elevations, drawing views, and sheet layouts. Change your building model and all associated drawing views will be regenerated automatically. And very unique in the BricsCAD BIM workflow is the fact that we can leverage the multi-threaded power of today's PCs and operating systems to regenerate those views in record time. Now, it's impossible to work in a vacuum in this industry. So BricsCAD BIM supports global open standards to ensure that you collaborate smoothly with everybody on the extended design team. If you add Bricsys 24/7, our SaaS-based common data environment, it can become the hub for model sharing and project communications across the entire job. Now, BricsCAD, the BricsCAD family of products, and BricsCAD BIM are the geometry engine that drives the Bricsys collective. This is our third-party application developer coalition. Now, we work together with these developers to offer solutions for structural engineering and analysis, building mechanical system design, photorealistic rendering, and algorithmic design. There are more than 400 application products available on the Bricsys App Store at bricsys.com. And this is really a unique approach in the industry from Bricsys. We don't believe that we should build a walled garden and force you to live in it. We believe that you should be able to use the tools that make sense to you and your organization, and you should be able to integrate those tools into your building information modeling workflow smoothly without loss of data at any time. That's the power of BricsCAD BIM working with tools from the Bricsys collective. So I've told you the marketing story now. I think it's time to pass the screen over to my colleague, Julie Kavarian. She's going to take you through the key technology components of the BricsCAD BIM workflow. Julie, I'm going to switch you over and you can take us forward.
Okay, so here is a model that's our inspiration for part of today's presentation. It was created in BricsCAD BIM. It's been modeled with 3D solids, but no building information data has been added yet. So let's take a look at how you might start modeling a building like this in the BricsCAD BIM workflow using tools you're already familiar with. Start with geometry first. Here we have two boxes. They're fully editable ACID solids that can be drawn and edited with the accuracy of CAD. BricsCAD's direct modeling is much more flexible than conventional history-based modelers. No families are required. More importantly, though, we can further modify this. Here, we're copy and rotate using the BricsCAD manipulator, all done without command input. You can also use other familiar tools too. For example, here, all three solids can be joined with a Boolean operation to create just one single solid. And then we can access the rectangle tool from the BricsCAD Quad cursor menu. The Quad is a heads-up AI-based tool palette right at your cursor. It predicts the commands you'll likely need next based on the way you use BricsCAD. With a simple rectangle and BricsCAD's automatic boundary detection, you can simply push and pull the volume, much like working with digital clay. The overall shape of the building is set, but it's completely solid. So what do? Well, with the shell command, you can hollow that out to a desired wall thickness. Now, for any mechanical engineers out there, this should be very familiar to you too. So we've got that shelled, and now we can split the model into multiple segments to represent different walls, roofs, and slabs, so we can continue to develop the model. Our inspiration model has a lot of glass curtain wall, so let's start thinking about that. The Panelize tool allows you to create a grid to represent the curtain wall. You have full control over the design of that grid, and it can be further modified with familiar tools. In our inspiration model, the curtain wall did not extend over the entire facade, so we'll go in and delete some of the bays on the left end. Then, with one click, turn the grid into a curtain wall. Did you ever think creating a curtain wall could be so quick and simple? With that done, now we can focus on adding interior walls to the model. BricsCAD BIM has dedicated modeling tools specifically for architectural design, like QuickDraw. With QuickDraw, it's easy to create a rectangular room that can be further modified. You can use these shooting dimensions to nearby walls to add CAD-accurate values, or you can simply use the snapping behavior of the cursor. With some walls added, of course, we need some doors. And by hiding the end wall here, we've got easy access to those walls. BricsCAD has a components library with parametric components that you simply drag and drop onto your model. So for example, a door. And adding your own components to the component library is easy. Model something in 3D, add some constraints and parameters, you're done. There's no scripting, no coding required. So after placing the door in the model, it interacts intelligently with its wall solid, so you can still adjust the position or the size of the wall using parameters, and then both the door and the wall will adjust. So in just a few minutes, we created a conceptual model that is CAD accurate and that we can continue to develop into throughout the BricsCAD BIM workflow.
So Julie, I think that the thing that's really striking to me is the fact that you're able to just work freely without having to concern yourselves whether you're looking at a wall slab or whether you're looking at a floor or a roof. I think that kind of freedom is amazing. But you know, one of the things that we really focus on is the ability to take the study model and make the study model a BIM without having to start over from scratch. So being able to do all of our design and visualization up front, get approval for the project, and then convert that to a BIM. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that part of the workflow operates?
Yes, indeed. So remember, this is our inspiration model again. And remember that these are 3D solids, no building information. So how would you go about adding building information data? Well, in BricsCAD BIM workflow, classify the 3D solids right in your conceptual model. You can do that manually by selecting a solid and choosing a classification. And now this is a roof. It appears under building elements in the structure browser as a roof, and building information properties in the properties panel have also been added to show that here. Now, this was very easy to do, but it would be tedious to have to do this for the entire model manually. And that's why we created BIMIFY. We used machine learning techniques to build the classifier, which was then trained on architectural, structural, and MEP models. And that's how it learned to classify geometry all by itself. Now, if you don't agree with BricsCAD's automatic classification, you can easily change it with the click of a mouse. Now, I want to stress this. I did not have to start over to add building information data to this conceptual model. In the BricsCAD BIM workflow, conceptual model and building information models are created in the same platform, all in DWG. So with just one click, BIMIFY automatically classifies all the 3D solids in the model for you. So we went from a list of solids to a building with multiple floors, with the walls and slabs have been identified and classified. And BIMIFY also created the section and elevation planes that will be used for the starting point of our 2D documentation a little bit later. And when we open a section plane, you can see that BIMIFY also found and classified all of the rooms in the model automatically too. So we've BIMified the architectural model, but that's just one piece of your entire project. What about the other building systems? MEP equipment is schematically represented in these other models. Think of BricsCAD as the geometry engine for your models, and as Don said, our third-party developer collective supplies the analysis expertise. So here's a mechanical equipment model that has already been BIMified. And by looking at this, now we can see the flow fittings and the segments and the flow terminals automatically classified for you. As BIM coordinators know, you need to pull all the pieces of your building systems together in one model. How do you do that today? In the BricsCAD BIM workflow, we do that using familiar tools like XREF and DWG, using your existing models or models imported with IFC, so you can start to visualize the project before construction starts and to begin to identify any potential conflicts. Now, let's cut a section to see the mechanical equipment in place, because this is the workflow that you already know, and this is what BIM should be.
Julie, that's pretty impressive. But I know that there's a lot more in terms of the AI capabilities of BricsCAD BIM. So being able to take an accurate massing model and convert it to a BIM is a pretty amazing thing. But there's a lot more to BricsCAD BIM in terms of our ability to continuously raise the level of development of the model. Can you show us a little bit about the auto match tools and how they work?
Absolutely. So here we have an office building. Now this is in a state right after BIMIFY. So everything has been classified. We've got floors identified, rooms, etc. Now if we look more closely at one of the section planes, we see that the walls are generic, meaning that there's no specific material information applied to the walls yet. We need to add another level of development by applying specific BIM compositions to the building elements. Now, BIM compositions are just a collection of materials or plies. We have a number of predefined as well as user-defined compositions that you can simply select and then drag and drop into the wall of the model. And we'll see those plies appear. Now, if we increase the level of detail a bit, we'll also see the rendered materials. We can also add compositions to multiple elements at once. So if we select these two walls here and drag and drop the composition onto that selection set, the composition is attached to both elements at once. Now, along the back of the building, let's add something different. This side of the building doesn't face a public space, so we can use something simpler and maybe even save some money by doing that. Now, let me point out that we are only assigning compositions to a few of the elements here. We will not be doing this for the entire model because that would be tedious and a repetitive task that we would rather automate. And that is why we created AutoMatch. AutoMatch has a mode called Autocomplete, and when you select that, it will start analyzing the design choices you've already made and tries to find a pattern. Once it finds the pattern, it just applies it to the rest of the model. Essentially, again, in a few clicks, we've assigned compositions to all the walls and the slabs in the model. It's also caught on to the design intent to have a different composition along that back wall. Interior wall compositions and slabs have been added throughout the model. Now, AutoMatch is another example of how we tried to leverage machine learning techniques to identify and solve repetitive tasks in the BricsCAD BIM workflow so that you can focus on the creative and technical aspects of designing a building. Now, one last comment here is AutoMatch also has an option to specify an external file as the source, so you can use that when you have multiple models that you want to apply the same compositions and materials to.
Wow. So I'm seeing a continuous increase in the level of development of this model, starting from solids, pure solids, automatically BIMifying to add IFC classifications, then using tools like AutoMatch to give us the ability to replicate these compositions across the model. And now I think the next thing we want to do to have a true accurate model is adjust the way that the plies of those compositions interact. So doing that in conventional BIM systems can be really laborious, Julie, but I know that we have some tools inside of the BricsCAD BIM workflow that can automate that consistency in terms of details across the model. Can you show us a little bit more about Propagate?
Absolutely. Here we have another model similar to that last one. And if we look more closely at a section, we can see that the floor slabs and the outer walls don't quite connect in a realistic way yet. Again, here our philosophy is to let you freely model this detail the way you want it in full 3D. So we just start push-pulling plies of the floor slab into that outer wall. Now, this is very flexible and fairly easy to do, but it'd be nearly impossible to do this for an entire model manually. And that's why we created Propagate. For Propagate, you select the elements involved in a certain detail, and then it isolates that detail for you and searches through the rest of the model for locations where the detail could be applied. Suggestions are presented, and we can choose to accept them or not. If we do, then Propagate will transfer those details to the suggested locations, as you can see here at the bottom. Now let's also take a look at the other side of the building by cutting a new section through there. And I want to point out that this is not just a view of 2D sections, but let's go ahead and isolate the floor slab so we can see the actual geometry that's been altered throughout the entire model by the application of the detail. And this is important because it means that your quantity takeoff of a model detail like this will be accurate. Now, BricsCAD BIM has a details panel where you can store your details for reuse, for use in other models as well as other projects. And then you can propagate a detail from the library by simply dragging and dropping it into your model.
Wow, I'm digging this. It's great to have it explained by somebody who's actually an engineer, an architect, because I'm an engineer.
Hey, careful there.
I get it. I know. I didn't mean to call you an engineer. That's not nice to call an architect an engineer. But you know, I think that the thing that most people probably don't understand about our approach is it's about fidelity, right? And it's about accuracy, because think about what this gives us. If we use tools like AutoMatch to ensure consistent application of compositions and materials, then we know that the model is always going to reflect our real world intent. Then we can use the Propagate workflow, which allows us to ensure that ply junctions and other details throughout the model are consistent across the entire model. And I think when we talk about continuous level of development and consistent level of development, that means that we have a model that allows us to cut a section anywhere and we can create a valid drawing sheet from it. That also, as you say, really helps us in terms of our quantity survey process, because now we're seeing the exact amount of material we need. I mean, that showing that floor slab notched away to fit the walls, that's just amazing, right? And to do that through any other kind of BIM workflow would be really tedious. We've automated all the tedious parts, which actually makes it fun, I think.
It does. Okay, so let's wrap up here with some 2D documentation. So here are those two office models again, and now they're fairly complete. So it's time to start creating 2D documentation from the BricsCAD BIM model. Now I've already created my BIM project. As you said, 2D documentation is generated from the section planes in the models you've included in your BricsCAD BIM project. Individual plan, section, elevation, and details are created in viewports on the sheet layouts. We can also create schedules. BricsCAD BIM preserves your 2D workflow, and the automatically generated sheet is simply a viewport on a layout based on a section plane. Here, we're looking at the second building. We see that the basic plan view is generated, but there's not much else on the plan. So let's go take a look at the actual model of the second building. So we just need to open the attached XREF and the appropriate section plane. Okay, I see the furniture is displayed in the model, but it's not displaying on our sheet. Well, that's easy to update because BricsCAD BIM uses layers to control visibility, just like you're probably doing today. Looking at the floor plan though, I don't like the hatch pattern that's shown on that exterior wall. That's also easy to change because you can control the hatch patterns here in the plan view as well as other views. So from the model, we see that this wall has the composition cavity wall front. So from the BIM composition panel, you control the hatch patterns. You can configure them to comply with project or corporate standards, and the defined compositions can be shared among projects to help maintain the consistency in your documentation, whether it's plan, elevation, or 3D rendered view. And then once the viewport's updated, the change is visible on the sheet. So this gives you a lot of control and flexibility over the display of your documentation. Dimensions are added using the standard annotation tools in BricsCAD, which again, you're already familiar with. So as you can see, creating 2D documentation in the BricsCAD BIM workflow uses tools that are both unique to BricsCAD, as well as those that you're already comfortable with, like XREFs, layers, dimensions, and viewports, because you're working in DWG. But once the dimensions are placed, what happens if the model changes? Well, let's find out. Editing your model in BricsCAD BIM is easy too, with tools specifically designed for 3D model editing. In the BricsCAD BIM workflow, your 3D building information model and your 2D construction documents are all created in one platform and in one file format, DWG. So that means when changes are made to the model, the sheet view also updates. Now, every project requires schedules and quantity takeoffs. In BricsCAD BIM, schedules are based on data extraction definition files, so you have full control over what you include in your schedules. Your quantity takeoffs will be accurate because of the consistent level of detail made possible with BricsCAD's machine learning and AI tools like BIMIFY, AutoMatch, and Propagate, like we just saw. So to wrap up, let me show you some sheets that are further along. The first sheet here, we've got several different floor plans with lots of tags. Notice that the steel column is tagged here. Now the information in the tag was pulled from the structural DWG XREF. And on another sheet, we've got various sections, details, and renderings. Now the Enscape rendered view is placed to provide quality real-time rendering, which is integrated right into BricsCAD BIM workflow. Now that workflow also supports, as you mentioned, Don, the direct integration with McNeil's Rhino and Grasshopper for freeform parametric design.
I'm blown away, Julie. You managed to compress an overview of our BIM workflow into 18 minutes, and I don't know, that's just unreal. There's so much more about BricsCAD BIM that I think everybody probably wants to know, and we'll invite them to join us. We'll be glad to take you down this path and take you along the journey of exploring BricsCAD BIM. But I want to thank Julie for her portion of the presentation, and I want to switch the screen over to my colleague, Mr. Robert Green, because, you know, regardless of how powerful the workflow is, if it doesn't fit into your business, if it's not easy to learn and implement, and if it's not cost effective, you won't be interested in exploring BricsCAD BIM. But it is all of those things, and I'd like to invite Robert up here to tell you a little bit more about that. Mr. Green.
Fantastic. Thanks, Don, and hopefully I did the right thing and you can see my screen, yes?
Yes, sir, we can. It looks
awesome.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, I can implement software, but sometimes switching screens in a webinar is problematic. So yeah, thanks everybody, and Julie, fantastic overview and demo of BricsCAD BIM. Thank you all for coming to the webinar today. We hope that you're interested in what you see and that you're intrigued by what BricsCAD BIM can bring to the table for you. Now, as my job as Director of Implementation, it's my job to make sure that companies that want to adopt and implement BricsCAD have a smooth transition and experience. So what I'd like to do to close things out here is just drive home some of the compatibility and value, affordability metrics, and talk a little bit to CAD and IT managers about deployment and flexibility of our licensing so that we can look a little bit at the broad story of what's going on with BricsCAD. So at first, BricsCAD is a BIM ecosystem, is the way that I like to describe it. It allows you to accelerate your design process and increase the level of detail by utilizing some very advanced, very cool AI tools, as you've seen, as Julie showed you. But yet, we can also leverage open formats and existing time-tested workflows that you already know. For example, you saw Julie using layer management in there, and this is something that's very familiar. This gives you essentially the best of both worlds in my mind. Great speed, great results, yet familiarity, which means that your users don't have to unlearn what they already know. Now, I'm a big fan of saying never abandon that which you already know, but with BricsCAD BIM, I may have to append that a little bit and say, build on what you already know to get better results even faster. So let's dig in and let's explore a little bit of this. Now, what starts all of it really at the core of the BricsCAD story is our profound compatibility due to our embrace of open standards. Now, everything that you saw Julie do was being stored in a DWG file. That's correct. The same exact format that you probably already use for your CAD annotation functionality is now storing BIM. Now, of course, there's BIM information in there, and because we are so involved with the Building Smart IFC data scheme, we have actually embraced that data scheme as the way we store BIM data inside the DWG. Now, why does this matter? Why do I mention that? It's because if you need to correspond with other BIM users, with other BIM tools or plugins or outboard utilities, IFC is going to be the mechanism by which you likely do it. And since we speak native IFC under the hood, we're not converting to IFC, we simply are IFC. It's the way we do business. So all we have to do is just write the IFC data out into an external file and away you go. And this is huge if you're trying to embrace open BIM or to work with other tools and suppliers and collaborators in the IFC world. Now, another practical benefit of our commitment to open file standards like DWG is that the DWG file that you're using for BricsCAD BIM can be opened in any other DWG-based tool. This opens up an entire universe of external utilities, third-party apps, but it also means that techniques for file management that you're already probably using, like XREF management, the ability to control things like layers, the way that you perform annotation in layout tabs that you're already used to, all the way down to the way your printing and plotting is configured and stored, can be used using exactly the same command vocabulary that you're already used to. So everything about this, the files you manage, the way that it's controlled on your network, everything's compatible. Look, you didn't get into your current CAD and BIM system to be trapped by proprietary formats, but over time, you may find yourself in that position. You don't want to have to absorb huge training costs to bring new users to BIM. So our calculus is that by embracing open standards, BricsCAD will allow you to use what you already know, combined with additional third-party DWG and IFC tools to build a BIM ecosystem that serves your needs. You can create your own path with BricsCAD because of our open formats, and you'll never be held hostage by a proprietary data format by doing so. Now, one of the things that we see that there's confusion about or that people don't understand about BricsCAD is that BricsCAD is actually a family of CAD products. Now, what you've looked at today is about bringing innovative BIM functionality to your workplace, and you saw that in BricsCAD BIM, but BricsCAD is also a cost-effective way to replace your existing CAD or LT CAD products. So you can actually do both. This gives you ultimate financial flexibility, and I'd like to take a moment to go over the BricsCAD family with you, just so that you understand what we mean when we're talking about this. Now, the BricsCAD product family starts here, moving upwards in complexity from left to right. Classic, which is probably what you would use to replace your LT-based tools. Pro, what we like to call a better AutoCAD because we embrace additional functions above and beyond AutoCAD. Platinum, and all the way up to BIM, which you have seen today. So this is an entire family of products. It's all in one installer. To move back and forth between the products, it's just a different license code. That's all. So once you get BricsCAD downloaded and installed, essentially you're done, maybe other than applying a different license code. This is all glued together with our common data environment tool. And when it's all put together, we like to call it BricsCAD Ultimate. So you'll have capabilities to do all of these. And later when I show you how to download your trial, you will be able to see and experience BricsCAD Ultimate for yourself. Okay, this is a great story, but how does that actually benefit your company, or how could it actually benefit your company? Now, what I like to point out is that quite a lot of the times, the companies that I see have a hybrid approach to CAD and BIM. This is allowing them to define software usage along the lines of their employee skill set. So if somebody is a CAD user, they're probably on a CAD product, and if they move into BIM, this means that they have to move over into a totally new BIM product, which will have a associated learning curve. Now, since BricsCAD is a family of products, we don't have this problem because you download and install BricsCAD once, and then you simply move back and forth between the different tools within the family, utilizing a different license code. So files can be easily shared because the BIM is stored in DWG, and these DWG files can be moved seamlessly back and forth. So for example, if you wanted to have classic CAD functionality combined with BIM, you could utilize BricsCAD BIM and BricsCAD Pro in a hybridized environment. Share the files back and forth seamlessly, and this way your annotative and CAD functions could be done on the lower cost BricsCAD Pro licenses. There's no hassle of having to export or use save as workflows to move between the tools because everything's in DWG in the first place. So think from an administrative, if you're a CAD manager or an IT manager, think about the money and administrative time you could save by only having to manage a single software platform. And this is truly the benefit that the BricsCAD product family brings to you. So I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. So, all right, if BricsCAD can replace my existing LT and CAD type workflows, how easy is it to adopt? Let me say right up front, we understand there's no way that you're going to get rid of your current CAD solution in favor of BricsCAD unless it's very easy to do so. And that's why we focus so much on affordability, licensing flexibility, and high compatibility. We feel that by preserving your custom workflows from your current CAD products, your users will be able to feel at home on BricsCAD right away. So much of this is done via our direct DWG compatibility, which I talked about a few moments ago. But there's other things that we do to make sure that this compatibility will make it very easy for you to adopt BricsCAD. At the core of it is your customization and your workflows. Chances are you've spent a long time, perhaps years, many man years of effort to customize your existing CAD environment. This customization and these specific workflows must be preserved in order for you to move over to BricsCAD quickly and seamlessly. Therefore, we take great care to be able to import common user interface elements from CUI files like toolbars, ribbons, menus, your tool palettes, your block libraries. We read and load and run list files directly, along with VBA and .NET projects are a very straightforward transition. We open sheet sets like you'd expect. We use your template files just like you would expect. So standardized things like annotative styles, text styles, layer management schemas are exactly the same. We'll even bring over your plotter configurations. It really is that straightforward to transition to BricsCAD. And if you don't believe me, I'll set up an appointment with you. You can see it for yourself. If you can use BricsCAD, if you can use AutoCAD, you can use BricsCAD. All you have to do is translate over and then add BIM and build a hybrid CAD BIM environment that is simple for your users to adopt. BricsCAD uses the same commands you're already used to. It uses the same UI elements you're already used to. We bring over the custom content and workflows that they're already used to. This means your users sit down at BricsCAD and they simply start using it. The only thing they have to learn is the new BIM commands. And as Julie showed you, there aren't that many of them, and they're pretty smart. But don't believe me, let's look at what a customer has said here. This is Hristo Gunchoff, and he's the managing director at Prototype. And as you can see from that picture, they make very specialized architectural building products. Now, they're a BricsCAD adopter. They use BricsCAD BIM. And his quote is, if you're an engineer who's used to working with 2D, it's much easier to start working in 3D with BricsCAD than with any other tool, because you can just follow the same intuitive pattern. And this is his way of verbalizing what I've tried to relate. If you're comfortable already with the CAD workflow, all you have to do is add a little bit of BIM. So let's look at the interface. This looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? Now, clearly some things in the ribbons are different because the BIM functions are somewhat different, but the interface and functionality is the same. And when you move over to layout tabs for things like annotative functions or layer management or XREF management, as Julie even showed you some in her demo, this is straightforward because you already understand it. This means that the training curve for going from CAD to BIM is greatly reduced. This keeps your training costs down, and this keeps your BIM implementation costs down as well. So this is a very straightforward, easy way for you to migrate your existing users into BIM, especially since you don't even have to have a new product. You just put in a new license code on their machine and away they go. This is a uniquely scalable environment, all within a single product and product installer. BricsCAD products grow with you at your own pace based on your own needs. You can add powerful BricsCAD BIM features to increase your design capabilities to bring BIM in-house. You can use familiar BricsCAD Pro features to replace your current 2D and CAD environment and save a lot of money as you do so. You should go have a look at the pricing options on the website to see that for yourself. Use a blend of these tools to build a hybridized BIM and 2D CAD environment, all in a single unified platform, and mix and match the licenses based on the skill set of your workforce and your project load. This allows you to retain what you know, add more functions as you need, and you save money as you do it, with an implementation curve that is straightforward and easy. Oh, and by the way, the only thing you have to change to go from 2D to BIM is a license code, because BricsCAD's already installed. Now, let me speak a little bit to my IT and CAD manager audience out there. One of the big things that BricsCAD offers is extreme flexibility in licensing. We call it your licenses your way. We continue to offer these options because you say they're valuable. We continue to support your licensing needs the way that you need to work affordably. We continue to offer perpetual licenses with maintenance. We continue to offer network shareable licenses. These are options that have been taken away by our competition. We will continue to offer them because it gives you the greatest flexibility and affordability for your CAD requirements. Now, if you'd like to subscribe, you can, or you can mix subscriptions with perpetuals. You can even use subscriptions that are configured as network users. The point is, it's your business. You know what your needs are, and our licensing schemes will support your needs. We don't want you to change your business to support what we think a licensing manager should look like. You can use any language version of BricsCAD you want. You can use it in any locale that you want. There's no upcharge, there's no additional cost to do this. BricsCAD is easy and fast to deploy because it's a single product and it's really tight and compact. It's fully silent on install, which makes it very SCCM push friendly. There's no named user requirements, so it is extremely easy to install, push, and configure with almost no administrative overhead. And it's all contained in a single 420 megabyte installer. And it's really kind of amazing. You won't believe it until you actually work it for yourself. Now, BricsCAD is the affordable, powerful, smart CAD and BIM solution family. But why believe me? Try it for yourself. You need to go download this tool and start working with it so you can see exactly what the benefits will be for you. Now, here's how you do this. You take advantage of our try it for free 30-day trial offer. You just go to Bricsys.com and get the process started. All you have to do is click the download arrow in the top right-hand corner of the web page. You will then be prompted to sign in. If you do not have a Bricsys account already, you'll need to make one, but it's real straightforward. It's just your email and a password, and you're in. And this just allows us to correspond with you, send you some tutorials and some resources. We'll not harass you. We just want to make sure that your trial experience is productive. So very minimal. Once you do this, you'll simply be able to complete the registration of your account, and then you'll be able to download BricsCAD. Now, when you download BricsCAD, you're actually downloading BricsCAD Ultimate, which contains everything. So after you download it and run the installer, you'll be greeted with the BricsCAD launcher. And what you want to do is click the Start Trial button, and this will allow you to evaluate everything. Everything that you've seen in Julie's demo will be there. Everything you might want to do in a 2D CAD workflow will be there as well. Very straightforward for you to go ahead and get started with this. Now, one of the things about running the different product tools that we saw there is that how do you know exactly how each version of BricsCAD, for example, BricsCAD Pro or BricsCAD BIM, is going to look and feel? And would it be easy for you to contrast those versions? Yes, it is, because you can use the Run as Level command. Simply start BricsCAD and type in Run as Level at the command line. You can then set the version of BricsCAD that you would like to use, whether that's Pro or whether it's BIM. You simply select the version of the product that you'd like to evaluate, exit BricsCAD and restart, and it will come back up with that personality, showing you only the launcher options that are valid. So this is a great way for a CAD manager to see exactly how BricsCAD Pro is going to look on a machine, or exactly how BricsCAD Pro is going to look on, BIM rather, excuse me, is going to look on a machine. It's very straightforward. So if you take those little tips and tricks to heart, you should find that your trial experience with BricsCAD will be very productive. But should you have any questions, here are some resources you can use to reach out to us. We do these webinars every week. So if you'd like to see what we're up to, or register for a future webinar, or even view one that's already been run, go to the Bricsys.com website and look at the events page. You'll find us there. And of course, feel free to reach out to your local BricsCAD reseller so that you can see for yourself exactly how powerful BricsCAD will be for you and your company. Thanks for coming. Go try BricsCAD. You're going to love it. Trust me on this. Bye-bye.